Hey everyone, this is BlackHawkSC, and welcome to another edition of Underdog Mechs. In this series, I feature mechs that most people consider mediocre or simply bad, and are therefore not commonly seen in the game. I really enjoy making these videos because it allows me to explore the mechs that most people forget even exists. If you want to see my previous videos in the series on the awesome 8T and the Cataphract 1X, I'll link the videos in the description below. In this episode, I'm going to go over the Atlas AS7-K, which most people consider to be the worst of the 6 Atlas variants. I honestly bought this mech purely for the challenge, and initially I ran this really weird Gauss LRM ER large laser MPL build on it. My thought was that if it was already bad, why not put a bad build on it and try to make it work anyways. Well, that's not the build I'll show you in this video, so don't get scared off right away. It's really funny though when I play this mech and people are like, wow, an Atlas K, like they've never seen it before. So if I get a good match on it, it really feels like an achievement for me. The main reason why the K variant is ignored is due to its hardpoints, and there are several issues with it. First, you'll notice that it has fewer weapon hardpoints than any other Atlas variant, with 6 total. That's even less than a lot of light and medium mechs, which have far less tonnage for weapons. I'll point out here that it does have 2 AMS hardpoints on the arms, which I think is a selling point in the early days of MWO. During those days, LRMs were more dangerous than they are now. However, present day, most players learn how to avoid LRMs early on in their MWO careers, so most experienced players don't run AMS at all. Another problem is that the single missile hardpoint here is not very useful. I can probably go into why that is in more detail in a separate video because it's kind of a long topic. But the short explanation is that because missiles have very different firing characteristics when compared to ballistics and energy weapons, they're typically only useful when you can boat them. So, with the missile hardpoint out of the picture, you really just have 5 weapon hardpoints to work with. Next, 2 of the energy hardpoints are in the CT. The IS isn't blessed with big single-slot energy weapons, which means that to use both of them, you can only use something like MLs and MPLs. So if you do that though, that means your build is going to focus on short-range combat, possibly fitting in an AC-20 in the ballistic hardpoint here. So you can see that it's just going to be a worse boar's head if you just build it that way. Therefore, if we don't do the short-range energy ballistic brawler builds, we're actually left with just 4 weapon hardpoints, which is pretty sad. The last problem is an issue shared by all the Atlases, which is how low all the hardpoints are. With the DDC and S variants, and even with the D and RS, it's not as big of a problem because they can run legitimate brawl builds. I mean, honestly, I can't justify running brawl builds on the K because every other Atlas does it better. If we play mid or long range, then the low and wide hardpoints do become an issue. If I'm not mistaken though, this is the variant that's dedicated for long range combat and actual battletech. So I think it's pretty interesting that range builds would actually be lore friendly in this case. Fortunately, the quirks do support these kinds of builds, even if the hardpoints don't. We have a 15% Gauss rifle cooldown quirk, and a 50% energy range quirk. PGI was pretty generous with these numbers. Normally you'll see range max out at 10%, but the K really needs all the help it can get. Furthermore, a recent patch converted all the structure quirks on the Atlases to armor quirks, and with the crit chance quirk, they help to protect the Gauss rifle from getting critted. So based on these characteristics, it looks like PGI is leading us towards a laser Gauss build. If you go that route, I personally like the LPL Gauss combo, which is the build that I'll demo today. The ER large laser or large laser Gauss build also works, but I just think it isn't worth running on a 100 tonner since the Cataphract can carry the same firepower. It's kind of a waste in my opinion. The energy heatgen quirk is well suited for when you engage at mid-range, so that's another reason why I like the LPLs. Well, okay, let's just go into a gameplay demo and I'll talk more about the build there. So in this match, we're in River City. River City is a decent mid to long range map. It's mostly mid-range, but with quite a number of longer range positions if you can get to them safely. So right now we're kind of, because the match hasn't really gotten within our range yet, we're kind of staying back over here. There seems to be something. He dies. Unlucky Locust. That's like a one-shot kill or something. Unfortunately, that Locust stood still. I think this match you'll see a lot of cases where the low hardpoints really make some of the shots more difficult, and So that's kind of a negative that I can't really emphasize enough. So one thing you can do is try to point your reticle up as much as possible towards the top of the target that you're shooting, and sometimes that will allow you to clear obstacles. And so you can see it from that shot, the width of the mech really becomes a problem there. You can also see here that you do notice, I think there's a cooldown quirk with the AS7-K, and the Gauss rifles, sorry, the LPLs really cool down pretty quickly. So when I'm hot on this mech, when I'm running hot on this mech, I'm just firing the center torso LPL. And typically, whatever you can see, as long as there's clearance, you can hit it with the LPLs. You can see we're getting like smashed here. We're actually taking fire from several different angles. There's a mech that was on top of that platform, and there was a Kodiak right in front of us. And one of the things I kind of really like about the AS7-K, and really like all the Atlases now, is how tanky it feels. Like, I think if you saw from the earlier Mech Lab screenshot, like I had 151 points of armor in total on the CT. So I mean that's a lot of armor, and when you've played this mech, I think you'll just notice how tanky it is. You just you can just take shots from all over the place, and unfortunately, even though you don't really want to get shot, even when you do get shot, you just feel that it just can take a lot more damage than other mechs can. So one of the things that I don't like about this build, I think it's something that's not really ideal about it, is the convergence between how slow the convergence between the torso and the CT LPL and the arm LPLs are. Like, if you're trying to hit a fast-moving target, like your arms will be way ahead of your torso most of the time unless you arm lock, which if you do that, then it makes your torso twisting a lot slower, like, you know, with this, without changing the mouse sensitivity. So that's a problem. I think you see that in several shots that I make in this game. But you just have to kind of deal with it, you know. That's one of the reasons why it's not a great mech. It's also like I haven't been playing that much recently due to personal reasons, but in some cases, like my shots have been off, and I think you might have seen that in this video. Well, that was definitely an above average game. However, I think the K, just because of its loadout and tankiness, should contribute at least something to any match it's in. Normally, I've been averaging 500 to 600 damage on this build, so it should do alright. Okay guys, thanks for watching, and I hope I've convinced at least few people to try it out. See you next time, and bye for now.